when you try to open the Adobe Dimension, you have two options to create a new project or open the project that you already have. We are going to create a new one. And this is the main interface of the software, okay? It has three main categories. The one on the right, it's more about the action property. It means like any model that you import to your scene. Here on the right hand side, you have the option to modify and make the adjustment and like change the values, okay? And in general, Adobe Dimension is a 3D environment software, but this is not the right software for 3D modeling or animation. Okay, this is the software that you mainly use it for like creating a mock-ups. You don't have that much tools and options in order to make changes. Some of the basic shapes, it has the property that you can modify some of the property of that model, but this is not that much in order to create it from the scratch, okay? And the section in the middle, which is like the main part, it's called viewport. That this is the part that you basically import your models into it, and you're gonna like interact in the 3D space, okay? What is really important in the viewport to understand, in the 3D software, we introduce the third axis, which is the Z-axis, which is for the depth, okay? In other 2D softwares, we use a Y-axis and X-axis, which is for the basically width and height. But in the 3D software, we use the Z-axis as well. Also, there are three shortcuts that it is important to interact in the viewport. If you hold number 1, you can orbit the scene or rotate the scene, okay? And if you have any 3D model, that you can interact, like orbit around it with number 1. Let's just like first import or add one basic model in the scene. You can drag and drop it, or you can double click on the model, okay? Then it's gonna be imported to your scene. So if I hold number 1 on my keyboard and then with the left click with the mouse, I can orbit around it. Okay, working. Number 2, help you to pan and tilt in the scene, okay? Holding number 2 and left click on the mouse. And number 3, help you to zoom in and zoom out in the scene. And also you can scroll with your mouse to zoom in and zoom out. I personally don't hold number 3 and zoom in, zoom out. I just do it with my mouse. So I want you to interact with the scene in the viewport. Also, if you hold the space bar, you can move the viewport as the whole. I mean, I don't know what is good for. I personally never use this option. So if you click on the model, you can also delete it or just like add multiple models. So the left-hand section, this is the main useful part of the software, that you can add models and you can add material, you can add background environment or lights, and also there are some tools in the toolbar that you can work with them, okay? This is just like pretty basic software. In general, let me take a look quickly on the toolbar. If you click on the plus button, you have the option to use the starter assets, which is the built-in assets in the in Adobe Dimension. Also, the second option is the CC library. If you create like any form of library and you want to import it, okay, which you don't need to be worried at this point. The third option is import your content, which you can import 3D model. You can import OBJ format in Adobe Dimension, and also some formats that it is saved or created for Adobe Dimension. You don't have like option to import like plenty of different formats. The most basic one, OBJ. Also, you can add images, or you can also add graphics or image as light as well. So you can use this import button, or you can drag and drop your 3D model or images to your scene from your computer. Also, this is another way to import other assets. And also Adobe Stock, if you click on it, you can have access to the free or license, which you need to purchase models or like any kind of asset, 2D, 3D different assets. Okay, I'm gonna also show you here later how to import like a free 3D asset from Adobe Stock. The second one is the select tool. The short key is V. Let me first, for example, import one model. I told you can drag and drop, or you can double click. For example, if I just like one model, and you see this is not the center in my, I mean, it is actually in the center of the viewport, but since I moved my viewport, I orbited that like tilt and pan. This is not the center. If you press F, it brings it to the center of the focus, okay? This is also another way. So for example, when you have like multiple 3D models in the viewport, if you select one of them and press F, it brings it to the focus. So as I mentioned, V is the short key for the move tool. And if you hold the this area of the basically different axes that you have, you can just like move the whole thing. Also, there are other tools that you need to know under that category. In general, in any form of Adobe, in any kind of Adobe software, when you take a look at the toolbar, if you see like a small arrows, if you right click, you can see like other tools underneath that category, okay? You can experiment with those and also learn how each of them works. Also, in the for every 3D model that you have, you can change the position or move it. You can change the rotation, and you can change the scales. Okay, there are short keys for them. For example, if you hold, if you press R, it goes to the rotation. If you press S, it goes to the scale. But also, if you do the V, which is by default, and if you click on each of these options, for example, the square, it's for the scale, the arrow is for the move, and these curves, this is for the rotation, okay? You can also click on them and change it based on every axis. For example, the blue one represents the Z action, the green one represents the Y axis, and the yellow, the red one represents the X axis. You can, for example, on the arrow, if you do on the green, it changes it on the Y axis. And for example, when I change it with the Command Z, I can undo my action. And if I, for example, want to do the scale for the y-axis, I can select this, and then you can see with my mouse, I can change the Y scale. If you want to keep the same proportion for anything, for the rotation or a scale, hold the shift, and doesn't matter which axis you work with it, okay? It's gonna be the same. For example, I hold the shift and then I move my mouse to the right and left, and with the left click, and then I can change the whole scale. Are you guys following me? So I'm gonna give you maybe a couple of minutes. I want you to interact with the 3D models in the viewport. Just import one model or drag and drop it to the viewport, and also try to change the scale, change the rotation, if there is any specific axis that you want to work with it. Also, these tools, you can find them here in the toolbar. For example, the orb, let me see. Yeah, under the move tool, you can see the rotate tool, and you can see the scale tool. So a short key for the scale tool is S, for the rotate is R, and for moving it, it's E. And here, these are the orbit tool, which is, I told you, number 1, or pan tool number 2, and dolly tool, which is zoom in and zoom out number 3. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes, and if there is anyone who has questions, just ask me.
You said we could import models if we wanted to, if we didn't want to work with other things. Okay.
Yes. I'm going to show you also how to import models. But remember, you have limit with the format. If you want to import models, it supports OBJ, supports OBJ format. Honestly, I'm not sure which formats Adobe Dimension supports beside the Adobe Dimension and OBJ.
I tried an FBX and it worked.
Okay. Then it works with FBX as well. Yeah, OBJ and FBX are the most common 3D formats. And also there is a website. What is called? Mesh Converter. Let me find. Online Mesh Converter. I'm gonna put this link for you as well, that you can convert the formats that you have. Sometimes if there is any free model that you want to use it and doesn't support it in the software that you use, you can also use the Mesh Converter. It doesn't work always, but work for most cases.
Is there any way you could show us how to export what's on the screen, like as a PNG or JPEG? Or is that even?
Yeah, in Adobe Dimension.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna show you. So are you guys good so far? Okay, I'm gonna continue. So for example, I have this model imported. In the scene, and let's, for the next one, let's add a material. And when you import it, for some of the built-in assets, Also, if you take a look at the scene in general, all your components of the scene, you can find it under the scene on the right side, okay? So for example, right now I have the environment, main camera, and also this is the model that I have. And also with the eye bulb toggle, you can turn on and off if you have multiple objects in order to find it, okay? And I also suggest you to rename your files, okay, in a way that you understand which one is which. And also you can see, for example, in this one, the body is separated from the lid. So I can, for example, add different material to it. And let's go and add material. In order to add material, the next category after the models is the material. Okay, you can see it here, or you see that toggle here under the filter by, you can click on the material and you only see the material. Okay, for example, I'm gonna like add a glass material to this. Let's see. So this could be like one option. And also I applied I drag and dropped it, but I did it for whole model. I do the Command Z because I want to select specifically the body and then add that material. I am not able to see it like perfectly the effect. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna like add the light and also background, okay? For example, for the background, you have the option to also, I mentioned that you can have your images, like any form of image that you have, you can import it for the background or for the texture, or you can use these assets. For example, I'm gonna do this table, I double click on it. And now I can add the light in the scene. Let's try different. I just drag and drop, see which one I like more. And as I drag and drop, for example, one of them, like this one, and if I add, I want to try something else, I drag and drop it, but I will, let me see, replace it. Yeah, you don't need to be worried. I mean, sometimes when you have different material or lights, it's going to be added to the scene, but in this case, it's going to be replaced with the previous one. So just pay attention. If it is added, maybe you don't want to have multiple same components, then you need to get rid of the other one. But in this case, I only have like one environment. For example, I like this one, studio light pillars. And also, as I mentioned, it has the property that I can just like manipulate the values. So here under the properties, I click on the environmental environment light, make sure that each property is different for each component, okay? And now I just want to adjust those values for the environment. It has two options to change the intensity and rotation. Also, you can colorize it as well. So for example, if I change the intensity a little bit and also change the light rotation. And I go back to the material, and for the lead, I want to have different material. I look for something like plastic. Let's see this one. Yeah, this one looks good. Also, you can change the color, I believe. I'm gonna find it definitely for the material that you add. You can change the colors as well. And so also you have the option to see the render in real time in order to see, okay, like what you're working on, like how it looks in the 3D environment. Let's click on the render icon, which is here on the top right, and it start rendering it. It might take time, and also it says like the resolution is 72. You can turn off the grid as well. Here is rendering it in the real time with this icon that it helps you to understand, okay, the light that you added, the texture that you added, how they look for the final render, but it doesn't render any file for you. So it's just like taking time to render it for me. I'm gonna stop it here because it takes time. I will go back to the render tab also. So far you work in the design tab. Here on the top, you see two options, design and render, yes? So whatever that you work on, it's gonna be on the design tab. And if you want to render it, save the file as a PNG or PSD, these are two formats that you can save, okay? This is under the render tab. And I want to tell you, if you work in the PSD format, it's helpful to preserve the layers for you. And then when you take it to another software, for example, Adobe Photoshop, and you have option to work on the layers separately. If you don't want to work in an additional software, then save it as a PNG format. And then save to, you can click on the link and save it wherever you feel comfortable. For the sake of demo, I'm gonna like do it on the desktop. And also I'm gonna like name it test. And for the quality, I will do it medium right now in order to render it faster for me. But for your project, for your assignment, I want you to do it like on the high option. And then I click on the render, it will start rendering for me. Also, it shows the status of your render. Also, when it renders, you're not able to work in the software in the design tab, and you need to wait for the render to be completed.
One quick question that I had, just because I was, I think I missed it, was how did you get the background like that?
Go under the filter by, do you see the filter by in the right side?
And is it just images or?
Yes. Images is for the background. You can
Oh,
have a solid color, you can have the gradient, you can have the default images, or you can import your image. And in order to import your image, you can go from the import tab or just drag and drop it to the viewport. So right now I rendered this scene, and this is not the best light rotation, as you can see. Yeah, I can definitely see it in the real-time render view and look for the better orientation of the light. David, did you want to add something? Did you try to say something?
Or no, it was just the question about the background design.
Okay. So let me go back to the design. What else can I tell you? Also, you're able to, it has the option next to the real-time render. It has option for camera bookmark. What you can do, you can add a camera view that you like it, okay? You can think about the composition specifically for the first project. We talked about the definitely right composition, okay? Also, you can make decision about the composition or layout of your scene. And then, for example, I rename it to main and I save it. And for example, this is gonna be the main composition or layout of my render. And if I decide to, because I need to interact with the scene, and for example, if I move them or anyway, it's just like, imagine like this, okay? And then later for the final render, I can go back here, click on the camera bookmark and click on the main, and it will be reset to the one that I saved it, okay? It's helpful sometimes. I mean, it depends. Sometimes you want to make decision about the composition and the view at the end, then you don't need to be worried. But sometimes some people in their process first make decision about the layout, and then it's good to use this option or feature. Let me go, yeah, here under the base color, for example, here, I can change the color. For the other material, I wasn't able to change the color, but for most materials, I am able to change the base color as well. And also when you add, if I don't want to have a background, also for the background also, let's see. Yeah, you can have a solid color for the background too. And for example, you can create the plane and some of the models that you add. Let's do like this cone that you can see under the property. You can change the radius, you can do it with mouse, or you can add the values here. As you can see, there are just like some properties that you can modify them. For example, like I can slice it as well. So I am going to give you maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes to experiment in the software and ask me question. I want you by the end of the time. Let's do that until 12:30, okay? Or maybe even less. I don't think that you need that much time to experiment in the software. Let's do it until 12:15 for now. I want you to import some, add some 3D models to the scene, and also add the texture, add the light, add the environment, and try to do some experiment and export it as PNG and sub. I am going to create an assignment on Camino, and I want you to submit your export there, okay? One last thing before we started, I want to show you also how to import other assets, because I remember someone asked this question. Let's do that from Adobe Stock. And doesn't matter, click on just like one of the options, and then under 3D, I'm gonna choose free, because there are tons of 3D models that And when I choose free and click on the search, again, under the asset type, change it to 3D. And now you will see there are some, even you can choose the category. I'm gonna do the models. And so when you hover over your mouse, it says like if it is free or not, okay? For example, I'm gonna choose this model and it says license for free. I'm gonna click on this. Need to sign in. Okay, download for free. And click on the zip file. I put it on my desktop. And now I go to file, import, or from this plus button, import your content, 3D model. Okay, I click on the OBJ file, but I believe that the material will come with it as long as you don't change the route of the way that the folders are under each other. Yes, I think I just like so huge. I zoom out. Yeah, and now I can see the model imported in the scene. For example, I can scale it down by holding Shift. Press F to center it to the scene. And here is the model that I imported. Okay,